I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. Hello, and welcome into yet another incredible episode of The Locker Room. Before we get started today, make sure you follow The Locker Room on Twitter, TLR with Jacob, on Facebook, The Locker Room host Jacob, on Instagram, The Locker Room Podcast 615, and on our newly trending TikTok, The Locker Room 22. Let's go. Well, there is no other place we are going to start off than directly in the NFL. That is right, with a brand new segment we would like to call Sunday Show Out or Monday Makeover. It is super simple. Here's how it goes. You're either a Sunday show out, we should be watching you in primetime games, we want to be cheering you on to make your run to the Super Bowl, we should be praising your incredible underdog performance, or you're a Monday Makeover. You need to go home and put on more eyeshadow. You need to go home and put on a different colored lipstick. You need to put a bag over your head. You need to maybe turn the lights off when people enter the room. Do whatever you got to do on that Monday makeover so that next Sunday, you can be a Sunday show out. So right off the bat, we are going to start with the Green Bay Packers versus the Vikings. So the real question is do I label this a Sunday show out for the Green Bay Packers or a Monday makeover for these Vikings? Well, I'd like to lean more towards the Monday makeover for the Vikings, but Aaron Rodgers was just too good. Sunday show out for Aaron Rodgers. Listen to these numbers that he put up. 32 of 44, 364 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Oh, and that's right, his star running back, only 16 carries, 66 yards, and 1 touchdown. Davante Adams was out of this world with 14 receptions, 156 yards, and of course 2 touchdowns for the star. But this is all Aaron all day. Here's what I am impressed with. Here's why this is a Sunday show out. Aaron Rodgers just said to Matt LaFleur, he just said to the Green Bay Packers organization, you should have gone and gotten me another weapon. But don't worry, I'm glad that you didn't, because I'm going to prove to my next team that I am still at the top of my game at 37 years old. Aaron Rodgers played like he was 25. His arm accuracy, his strength, his mobility in the pocket, his mobility to avoid sacks, his pocket presence awareness was out of this world. That throw he made on the sideline to Davante Adams is one of the toughest throws I have seen in years. That was incredible, off the charts. Aaron Rodgers is proving to Matt LaFleur, is proving to that Green Bay organization that he is on an MVP caliber season yet again. Now, that defense did play very good. They started off very shaky. Dalvin Cook off the bat went for a touchdown in the first drive. I was really worried for Green Bay to start this game off. I had Dalvin Cook in fantasy, so I was excited to see Dalvin get some points. But at the end of the day, this Vikings run defense really shut down Jones in the backfield, and it was up to Aaron Rodgers to throw his way to a victory today. Or not today necessarily, but Sunday. And he did that in flying colors. It was incredible. Sunday show out for these Green Bay Packers. I'm excited to see these Green Bay Packers. I am surprised by these Green Bay Packers. I'm not going to lie. I assumed Aaron Rodgers would come out here and pout like we've seen him do several other times in his career. But he came out and he told Matt LaFleur to basically shove it. So Sunday show out for Aaron Rodgers. Vikings, you need to make sure that Kirk Cousins doesn't sign another long contract for you, because Kirk Cousins was just almost not playable at times. His accuracy down the field, not there. His accuracy 15 yards and in, not there. If you didn't have Dalvin Cook in that backfield, you're losing by 35. It was already a bad loss anyways with a 43-34 victory. Your last touchdown to Adam Thielen really coming in garbage time, so it doesn't matter. But the Vikings, they're still there in contention to win that division. If Kirk Cousins can play like a decent quarterback, that is all the Vikings really need, because they have the pieces around them. Their defense is stacked, especially against the run. But Aaron Rodgers is just once again, just blew my mind. Sunday show out for these Green Bay Packers. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons. Sunday show out for Russell Wilson, but I'm going to lean more towards Monday makeover for these Atlanta Falcons. Russell Wilson was incredible. Russell Wilson willed the Seahawks to a win single-handedly. They have a lot they definitely need to work on as well. Their run game was actually healthy and decent for once. Their defensive backs and safeties were eaten alive for 450 yards by Matt Ryan. Now, I discussed this last week on the podcast. I said this is a trend that Matt Ryan has. He throws, he's number 15 in throws and touchdowns and accuracy and interceptions one season. Then he plays like a top 5 quarterback in the next. He's in that top 5 trend this year. 450 yards out of the gate with only 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. That is a pretty darn good game. My problem is, and the Monday makeover more so, is Todd Gurley and the entire Atlanta Falcons defense. Now, I know the Atlanta Falcons defense is not top 10. I know the Atlanta Falcons defense has a ton of holes in them. They lost Vic Beasley in the offseason to the Tennessee Titans, but you can't get much more from Matt Ryan. So on the offensive side of the ball, let's talk about that first. Todd Gurley's simply not good enough. 14 carries, 58 yards, 1 touchdown. His 1 touchdown was from the 1-yard line. So I'm not impressed. Todd Gurley has to be a game-changing back to alleviate some of the pressure off of Matt Ryan in that offense. Most of the passing yards came in the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, when they had to throw their way back into a game because they were down so many points. Hell, I have Julio Jones on both my fantasy teams. I was sweating bullets until the end of the third quarter when he started catching 8 for $140. Todd Gurley has to be better for this team. He is a key to take this Atlanta offense to the next level. He's not necessarily the key, but he is a key. They have great wide receiver play, good tight end play. Their offensive line held up pretty darn well today, all things considering. Matt Ryan's playing out of his mind. Todd Gurley's got to be better, plain and simple. I'm done hearing I have arthritis in my knees. If that's the case, then goodbye, see ya, go home, become a couch potato the rest of your life, and tell people how good you used to be. I'm tired of the complaints. I'm tired of you saying you have this, you have that. If you're going to put on a helmet, a jersey, a uniform, you've got to go out there and perform every Sunday. You need at least 85 yards and 2 touchdowns every Sunday from Todd Gurley for these Atlanta Falcons to take this division. Plain and simple. Now let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. Their defensive line, atrocious. Their linebacking core, atrocious. Their defensive backs, didn't think it could get any worse than atrocious, but it did. All around, they could not stop Russell Wilson. He could do whatever he wanted to do. Whether it was straight out of the backfield to Carson, whether it was just nice, easy over-the-tops to DK Metcalf. Now, I understand DK Metcalf is a freak of nature. He is a defensive end playing wide receiver. I get that. And here's the thing. If you would limit these Seattle Seahawks to a couple of deep bombs to DK, a couple of short routes to Tyler Lockett, a couple up the middles to Carson, then you have the Seattle Seahawks where you want them. Russell Wilson having to throw 120 yards to come back in the fourth quarter. But the problem is you let Russell Wilson throw all over the field as deep as he wanted, as short as he wanted. His defensive reading, or I guess that's the best way to put it, is the breakdown that he had on the defense was GOAT-like. It was Tom Brady-like. It was Peyton Manning-like today. He was making reads before the play was even happening. It's the best I've seen Russell Wilson dissect a defense in his entire career. Now, granted, it was against a very poor defense in the Atlanta Falcons, but I was very impressed with that extra step that Russell Wilson has taken this year. That is usually not something we see from Russell. We see him stay in the pocket, panic, scramble, make incredible magic plays, and here's the problem, and this is something that Deshaun Watson needs to learn very early on in his career. You've got to stop trying to be magic man and trying to be consistent man. Because the more you try and scramble out and throw off 1 foot for touchdowns, it's great. It will make highlights. You might win a few games. Russell Wilson took it to a Super Bowl twice. But the older you get in your career, the more steady and more smart and keen you're going to have to be in order to play these defenses. So I liked what I saw from Russell, but defensively, Atlanta just falls apart on every single level. And it starts, in my opinion, with the toughness up front. It doesn't even seem, I watched 3 defensive linemen get stood up. 2 of them get pancaked today. Like, you're a grown-ass man. I'm sorry, but there's only a few times I'm going to get pancaked before I get pissed, and I'm like, yeah, this ain't happening again. So at some point, it's more of a mentality for me than it is a skill set. Now, granted, they go up against a good offense. They're going to lose every single time. It's going to be a shootout with Matt Ryan. I'm okay with that. They went up against a good offense today, but the way they played just looked like they had no fight, no heart, especially up front on that defensive line. So Monday makeover. Your defense has got to show up with a better attitude, a better understanding of what they're going to try and take away. I didn't like the defensive plan. The defensive coordinator didn't look like he had a good plan. It looked like he just went out there and said, well, it's Russell Wilson. Let's see what we can do. I also don't know why I'm this passionate about the the Atlanta Falcons right now, but I don't understand. The Atlanta Falcons could compete for that division title. Not saying they could win it, not saying they're Super Bowl worthy, but that offense is on a level where they can compete with any high-scoring offense in the league once they're firing on all cylinders and with an MVP like Matt Ryan at the helm. Plain and simple, their defense has got to be better. Monday makeover. Next up, I want to talk about my hometown Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears pull off a very close victory, 27-23 against the Detroit Lions in a late fourth quarter comeback. Now, this one's interesting for me because I'm going to go Sunday show out for Mitchell Trubisky and the Chicago Bears. Here's what I loved from Mitchell Trubisky. His attitude, his demeanor, his presence on the field was determined, was focused, was I'm ready to win now. He didn't make a lot of dumb throws. He didn't make a ton of dumb mistakes. 20 of 36, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Does that sound like the Mitchell Trubisky that you all know? No. Does it sound like the Mitchell Trubisky that Chicago fans know? Not at all. When I first heard Mitchell Trubisky as the Chicago quarterback when he got drafted, I almost found a chair and a piece of rope. You put the story together. All right? I was not a Mitchell Trubisky guy. Still am not completely sold on him. I'm not saying that he is a top 5 quarterback by any stretch of the means. But I love the demeanor that he was playing with. I love the fact that even though offensively it wasn't working in the first 3 quarters, 2.5, 3 quarters, they continue to play Bears football. Matt Nagy didn't ditch his system and say, well, panic mode, let's have Mitchell Trubisky try and chuck up 45 passes in the second half and see what happens. No, they stuck to the regular scheduled program. That is what makes Matt Nagy such a good coach, is he didn't hit the panic button. There was a point about midway through the third quarter where I saw the Bears, okay, they took over the game, they took over the momentum. Defensively, they started coming back, and I could see that switch about midway through the third quarter, and I knew they had them. Now, I didn't know that the Lions would have a chance to win on a last-second throw, but DeAndre Swift drops the touchdown pass in the end zone. We all know the rest of that story. Bears win. But I hope that Mitchell Trubisky can continue to take these reins and keep that Chicago defense off the field. What we saw, the reason the Lions get so successful and teams get so successful early on is because the Chicago Bears keep going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So the problem is now their defense is playing an extra 15, 20 minutes that they're not accustomed to playing, or they don't want to play, or they shouldn't have to play. Your offense has got to sustain drives. And that's what we saw later in the game. We saw Mitchell Trubisky sustain drives. We saw him take control of the line of scrimmage. We saw him check out of plays. We saw him scramble instead of making dumbass throws like Mitchell Trubisky always does. We saw him scramble for nice, easy 4 and 5 and 6 yard pickups. David Montgomery, steady in the backfield. He's going to get you 2 yards a run. I was very impressed with this squad and their resilience. This is a different heart that I see in these Chicago Bears. Last year was, oh, poor Mitchell Trubisky. I think the fact that they brought Nick Foles in there made Mitchell Trubisky sit up and go, well, I can't sit here and continue to suck because now I've got a former MVP, a Super Bowl winner right behind me. Like, what am I going to do? I can't mess around now. Nick Foles is right there getting ready to take my job if I don't show up. So I like that aspect in the offseason, and I like what I see from these Chicago Bears. Now, I'm not saying that the Chicago Bears are going to the Super Bowl, but I'm saying that the Chicago Bears are very capable of winning this division. They have the defense. If Mitchell Trubisky can continue to play the way he played, if Matt Nagy can continue to coach the way he coached, if they can start sustaining more drives, watch out for these Chicago Bears. Sunday show out. I never thought I would be saying that this next team beat the arguable favorite to win the division, but the Washington football team comes out swinging out of the gates, and they beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-17. Wow. Yeah, I know everybody else is just as shocked as I am, and I know that many of you at home who maybe didn't see this game or haven't looked at many of the other NFL scores. Yeah, that is right. The Washington football team beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Some argue are going to win the division. If you watch this game, there's absolutely no chance that they even finish second in this division by the way they played on Sunday. Definitely, I'm not going to say Sunday show out for the Washington football team, and here's why. Dwayne Haskins didn't have a huge game. They didn't have a big game from Gibson in the backfield. It wasn't like they had a ton of miraculous offensive play or their defense was just so stout. This was more about what the Philadelphia Eagles can and can't do. This is a Monday makeover for sure. These Philadelphia Eagles are in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the deal. It starts with their leader, Carson Wentz. I'm tired of putting my faith and trust in Carson Wentz, watching him perform, knowing that he can be an MVP, knowing that he can be a top 5 quarterback in this league, and then him giving me performances like this. 14.2 QBR. For those of you who don't know what QBR is, that is his quarterback efficiency rating on the field. That means out of 100 scale, he is a 14.2. That is what his efficiency was on Sunday. 270 yards, averaging only 6 yards per throw, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He got sacked a whole bunch. I mean, when you only accumulate 57 running yards as an entire team, and I don't care that Samuels is hurt, you've got to start getting it done. Carson Wentz should not be factored into your rushing game as much as he has to be. Dallas Goedert was the only bright spot for this Philadelphia Eagles team. 8 receptions, 101 yards, 12 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Then we go back down. Let's go down. Jalen Reagor, a rookie, 55 yards on 1 catch. Deshaun Jackson, 2 receptions, 46 yards. That was it. Gerald Ward, 5 receptions, 31 yards. Byron Scott, 2 receptions, 19 yards. Zach Ertz, 3 catches, 18. Corey Clement, 2 for 2 yards. Hightower, never heard of him, but he was 1 catch for -2 yards. When your averages are -2, -2, -2, you're in trouble. Defense sucks. You have too many good players on defense to be giving up the points that you did to a football team that is destined to be last in this division. I'm not jumping on the Dwayne Haskins fan bus like so many people are out there. Dwayne Haskins is an average quarterback. This is an average team. I think they play with heart, though, because they have someone with heart at the coaching position. Doug Peterson, goodbye. See ya. Adios. Go write more books about winning Super Bowls. That's about all you're good at. Doug Peterson, in my mind, has never been a great coach. He's been a decent facilitator, never a great coach. The other side of the football, Ron Rivera, great leader, good coach, gets players to play hard, gets his defense to focus in and do their job. This man is getting IVs and battling cancer and still coaching full games without a single complaint. How many times have you heard Ron Rivera come out and complain, poor me, woe is me, the team is taking pit? No, you don't. Why? Because Ron Rivera is a fighter. He's a battler. He's a warrior. He comes out, and that's the way his team is going to play this whole season. They have arguably the best defensive front in all of football. Now, their defensive backs, not too much to look at. Their linebackers, not too great. But their front seven, stout, stacked, insane. Chase Young looks like he's been there for years. So kudos to Ron Rivera. Kudos to this team, the way you played, the heart that you played with. I think it says more to do with your heart and your attitude than it does your talent. Because if we're being honest here, Washington football team, you suck. And your team kind of sucks. As a whole. Your defensive front is good. Terry McLaurin, great. I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in this league. Everything else is average. Is not that great. But keep battling. I mean, the way these Eagles are playing, you very well might sneak in and take second place in this division. There's no way you're beating the Cowboys. But, the Philadelphia Eagles are ruined by injury. Their head coach doesn't have an ounce of gusto, doesn't have an ounce of want to in his entire body. He won his one Super Bowl. He wrote his book. He's signing book deals left and right now because he's such an inspirational coach, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, they've got to be better as a whole. This is a Monday makeover without a doubt. All right, I got a couple more here for you, and then we are going to move on to some NBA. The next game I want to talk about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New Orleans Saints. Sunday showout for the New Orleans Saints. This is not a Monday makeover, people. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be just fine. This is Rob Gronkowski and Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette and all these new pieces now coming together. It's going to take time. I mean, if we saw Tom Brady in New England for the repertoire that he had with Bill Belichick, it still took them 4 or 5 games to really get into the groove. And that's all based on, I think, how Tom Brady plays. It's going to take time for his new teammates to adjust to what he does. It's going to take time for Bruce Arians to really find the niche that Tom Brady and this offense and the running back core is going to have. Ronald Jones played fantastic. He ran with heart. He balled up the middle. I mean, he could go outside. I loved what he brought. But this is more a Sunday showout for me, and it's from the Saints' defensive line and linebacking core. The Saints had a bunch of problems on the cornerback end. I swear, since they got that pass interference not called on them, they pass interference every game, every time, all the time. The Saints' defensive backs are way too good. Marshawn Lattimore, Eli Apple, these players have got to be better. But their front seven really played well. Their front, I guess more so front four and back two. I thought their defense played at another level this Sunday. I mean, look at Drew Brees' numbers. He was only 18 of 30, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees did not have a very good game. He was not very accurate. Michael Thomas only had 5 targets with 3 catches. Jared Cook had a pretty decent game. Latavius Murray had a pretty decent game. Alvin Kamara was very strong. He ran very strong. He caught the ball very good. He was good in the open field. Tom Brady, he was okay. Tom Brady was 23 of 36, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You can tell it's going to take time for that offense to really gel. But the front seven of the New Orleans Saints just played out of their mind. Their linebackers played great. They kept the running game in check in Ronald Jones, even though Ronald Jones still rushed for 17 carries, 66 yards. He still rushed very well, I thought, in the open space. He put pressure on their defense to start the game off, and that opened up many lanes for Tom Brady to not only throw but to even run for a touchdown to start the game off. But at the end of the day, it all started with the pressure that got to Tom Brady. He was knocked almost 10 times, 9.5. He was sacked twice. I mean, when you're getting that much pressure on Tom Brady, we've seen this in the past, Tom Brady does not perform well. He's not, let's put it this way, Tom Brady is not Lamar Jackson. He can't escape the pocket and then burst off for a 7-yard, run. He's not going to go out of the pocket and then scramble around and then chuck a 75-yard bomb like Aaron Rodgers. He is a pure pocket passer with laser accuracy. So at the end of the day, if you're closing that pocket on him, there's not much more he can do. They had the run shut down for most of the day. They had Tom Brady bottled up. He was getting hit. He was getting nicked. He was getting balls tipped on him. I mean, everything you can imagine, they put all the pressure against Tom Brady. So front seven and linebacking core for these New Orleans Saints played at a very high level. And that's kudos to them because their offense, we know at some point is going to start snapping. Now, I know they added Emmanuel Sanders, so I feel like that's going to help a whole lot, especially with Michael Thomas. But Michael Thomas didn't have a great game. Emmanuel Sanders looked like he was out of place. Jared Cook had a decent game. Alvin Kamara basically was the offensive nucleus for that team. So once their offense gets gelling, if their defense can continue to play at this high of a level, the New Orleans Saints, once again, are going to be in that we should be making the Super Bowl conversation. The problem is what horrible thing's going to happen to them at the end of the year in order for that to not happen. So Sunday show out for me. I'd like to see Drew Brees win another Super Bowl. My last game of Sunday show out or Monday makeover. This was a tough one because there was a lot of games I can choose from, guys. And here's the deal: I don't want to put out a 2.5 hour podcast every Tuesday. If you request it, I promise you, if you request it, I will continue to make these shows longer and longer. But I'm not going to put that pressure on you. I don't want you to have to sit down and basically be watching all of Avengers Endgame when you're listening to one of my podcasts, right? So these are more highlights and nuggets that I try to give to you. Now make sure you are following us on our social media because we have a bunch of new shows. If you're a Titans fan, I'm doing a Titans breakdown exclusively on Instagram TV, so you've got to be following my Instagram. We've got a Saturday morning pick'em show where you can play along at home and win cash prizes. So, I mean, it's simple. You pick along at the end of the year. Whoever comes up with the most, I have a team that is here tallying them. So whoever comes up with the most walks away with cash prizes. You've got to be following us on our social media so you can stay up to date. But last game, let's go right into it. The Arizona Cardinals versus the San Francisco 49ers. Sunday show out or Monday makeover? Plain and simple. Sunday show out for these Arizona Cardinals. I am not someone that praises Kyler Murray like a lot of people do. In fantasy, he was the third and fourth quarterback taken off the board. Here's what I'm going to say about Kyler Murray. He played a very good game. Not a great game, not incredible. He played a very good game. 13 carries on the ground for 91 yards and a touchdown. I think that was the highlight for me of Kyler Murray's day. Passing-wise, he was only 26 of 40, 230 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He has some challenges because of his height. I've seen him be challenged a little bit when he's trying to push the ball more sticks and in. When he goes to the deep balls, he's able to escape. He's able to see over that defensive line. It seems he's a lot better on the balls, 15 yards and out. But the 15 yards and in is very hard. It's very hard for him. I mean, that's what happens when you have one of the Lollipop Guild people, playing quarterback. So, but I was impressed with his running mobility. I feel like that opened up the passing game later as the game went on. DeAndre Hopkins, another huge story here. Here's the deal. Listen, I did not believe DeAndre Hopkins was just going to go and just ball the frick out when he got to Arizona. I thought he would take a dip in receptions. I thought he'd take a dip in a little bit of yardage simply because that's not necessarily the offense that they like to run. Cliff Kingsbury likes to run out there. It's very run-centric. So I figured Kenyon Drake would have a very big day. I thought DeAndre Hopkins would have maybe 6 or 7 receptions for 89 to 100 with maybe a touchdown. I did not expect 14 receptions for 151 yards. Now, he didn't have a touchdown, but his damage in the mid-range was outstanding. He has proven, and he came out with a vengeance. He came out to shut people like me up. The people that thought that, hey, maybe the Texans saw something that we didn't. Maybe the Texans said, hey, we're going to try and pull a New England here and ship this guy out before his value caps. And he proved once again that he is a top 3 wide receiver in this league. From the start of the game, he was effective. He opened up the running lanes for Kyler Murray. So great performance by him. Now on the other side of the ball, let's go to San Francisco really quick. They did not play bad. Jimmy Garoppolo had a very decent game, 19 of 33, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert is a monster. He is a track star with a helmet. 15 carries for 56 yards, but 4 receptions for 95 and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert in the open field is so quick, so dynamic in his movements as well. Most of the time when you couple speed with speed and quickness are two different things. Most of the time, if you have speed, you don't have quickness. Raheem Mostert is that beautiful blend of speed, but also quickness. He can get to a defender, break him down with his quickness, and then fly past him with his speed. That's something that I love to see. It's something that's very hard to do. I've been around this game for a long time. I played it in college. Finding guys that have speed but are also quick at the same time is a rare combination, and Raheem Mostert has that. San Francisco, at the end of the day, they need more health on the wide receiver core. They just don't have enough help right now. You can't have Raheem Mostert be your leading wide receiver every single week. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo played well. He made smart decisions. George Kittle got nicked up a little bit. They really need to involve him. He's fine now. He came back after the second half and played, but they've got to involve George Kittle more. He is the key to opening up this offense immensely. He is a wide receiver at the tight end position. He's a great blocker, and I get that they want to run the ball high volume and then play action off of that. But you've got to get George Kittle more involved. He's got to have 9 to 10 receptions for $120 and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns every Sunday in order for San Francisco to get back to their Super Bowl aspirations. But this was a Sunday showout. I'm not going to give any credit or take any credit away from the Arizona Cardinals or say that, well, if San Francisco would have done this a little bit better or if George Kittle would have been a little bit healthier. No. This was simply just a great game. I thought Cliff Kingsbury called a great offensive scheme. Drake was not that huge of a presence. They realized they could attack it on the offensive side of the ball more with the wide receivers than with the running backs. So it was a beautiful blend on offense. Their defense held up very well, which was definitely shocking for most. San Francisco's just got to be more dynamic on offense. Their defense is strong, but it's that Bears situation all over again. You can't leave a top 2 defense in the league out on the field for 42 minutes and then expect them to continually get takeaways and get stops and get 3 and outs. You've got to have longer possessions on offense. You've got to be more effective on the offensive side of the ball. Same problem, like I said, that happens in Chicago. So once they figure out that balance, I fully expect, we don't know what's going to happen with Deebo Samuels, if he's going to be back. Brandon Ayuk, who's a very big star in my eyes for this team, he's got to get healthy. So once we see San Francisco at full health, I fully expect them to be in that Super Bowl conversation once again. Defensively, they're stout, but they've got to get more help there. Arizona Cardinals, great opening weekend. This is people don't be shocked if they're in contention for a wild card. Just gonna plain as day, gonna go out there and say it. Don't be shocked if they try and make a wild card or if they're even close to it. But that is my Sunday showout versus Monday makeover. Tune in next Tuesday for an all new segment of Sunday showout or Monday makeover. And now on to the NBA bubble. Well, I do believe before we get into the NBA, there is an apology due to one Mr. LeBron James. That is right. All of you haters out there, feel free to write LeBron James and tell him you are sorry for doubting his basketball just dominance. I mean, I don't even know another word to say there, but dominance. So what he does, he goes out against the Portland Trailblazers, the non-8th seed Portland Trailblazers that everybody's praising, and he 4-1s them like it's nothing. Goodbye, go home, Dame, enjoy being on 2K21's front cover, but that's all you're getting this year. Then he takes on the Houston Rockets, which I admit I was very skeptical. Game 1 after they lost, I was a little bit taken back, and hey, this could be a very good series. What does LeBron James and Anthony Davis do? Oh, nothing but sweep them to 4-1. A gentleman's sweep, once again. What we are seeing from LeBron James, what we are seeing from the Los Angeles Lakers, is them at their best. This is them finally figuring out how they have to play without such a key piece in Avery Bradley. Focusing on the Houston Rockets for a second, Daryl Morey has already opted out. He says he wants to become a free agent. James Harden comes up small in big moments once again. Russell Westbrook is the one that shocked me. Russell Westbrook did not play at all. I'm almost certain, because there's no way loudmouth Russ, well-dressed Russ, the Russ that we all know and love, went out there and played as poorly as he did. I mean, he was getting into an argument with Rondo's brother about, you better double me. Double you for what? We're up 22. If I'm up 22 damn points, there's no way I'm worrying about doubling you, Russell. There's a reason we left Russell Westbrook open to take every jump shot that he wanted. There's a reason. He played atrocious. He is the singular reason that the Houston Rockets were not able to make this a good series. James Harden did not play well in some games, I get that. But James Harden still ended up with 29, 30 points every freaking game. So what more do you want from the Beard? There's only so many free throws he can shoot. There's only so many points he can drop before needing help. You could tell, and I could tell at least, by game number 3, when they came out with that attitude, with the slumped shoulders, not ready to go, and they were willing to take a butt kicking from the Los Angeles Lakers and take it proudly, they were done. They were shipped out. Mentally, they were done. Gone. The Houston Rockets need to break up this small ball mentality. This is something I talked about on my college pick'ems this week. The small ball mentality will never win a championship. It might win you a series. It might take you to a Western Conference Finals. The reason it will never win a championship is because these novelty acts never work. It always comes down to the basics. The Lakers proved that. The Lakers shot a very high percentage from 3. They played very good defense. They played the best defense out of anybody in the bubble, and they dominated the paint and the glass. So what did the Lakers do? They did what old school basketball was. Rebound the ball, take efficient shots, play great defense. Oh, and by the way, they dominated on the boards, plus 45 in the last 2 games. So these novelty acts have got to stop. There's a reason LeBron James came back in 2016 in the championship. Because at the end of the day, all Steph Curry and Klay Thompson had was bombing 45-foot three-pointers, and at the end of the day, when LeBron James started taking the ball inside and imposed his will, they ended up coming back from a 3-1 deficit. Georgia Tech, this is where the example came up. Georgia Tech is no longer running the triple option. Why? Because it sucks. It is cool, it is fun, it's a novelty act, it might win you a cool bowl game, but at the end of the day, it's not doing you any favors. You're not going to get the recruits that you need to win championships. Why? Because you're running a system that no one cares about. You're running a system that's insufficient. You're running a system that 85% of the time against a top 10 team will never work. It might throw some teams off. Sure, small ball threw the Lakers off in game 1. Small ball threw the Oklahoma City Thunder off from time to time. But at the end of the day, the small ball theory will never work. You've got to have a big... Capella leaving was the worst thing they could have done. So, I mean, that's the Rockets side of the ball. Daryl Morey deserved to be fired. He didn't deserve to quit like a little baby. He deserved to be fired. He did an atrocious coaching job. Half of their players weren't invested in what was going on. One player was kicked out for going and getting some booty over ball. So he was so worried about sleeping with somebody that was administering him a test that he's not even focused on winning a championship. James Harden is tired from carrying everybody on his back, and Russell Westbrook, I'm pretty sure, stayed at the golf course the entire series. So the Houston Rockets, they need to break up this boy band because small ball will never work. The triple option will never work. These novelty acts are never going to work. It's not how sports are. It always comes down to the basics. Just what it is. There's a reason Georgia Tech's running the spread. There's a reason the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers and everybody else went out and got shooters, but they also have a big man that plays. There's a reason it works. You can't get dominated 45-20 on the glass and then go out there and expect that you're going to win by 25. It's not going to happen. But this is all credit to the Los Angeles Lakers. They are firing on all cylinders. LeBron is extremely efficient. Anthony Davis, you can mark him down for 26 and 10. The most important thing that we are seeing from the Los Angeles Lakers is two things. Number one, their defense. They are playing not only the best defense in the bubble, they're playing the best defense out of anybody I have seen in the NBA in the last 10 years. I go back to the Toronto Raptors series last year. I've seen players like Kawhi had good individual defensive series last year. We've seen players have good individual defensive series. As a team, they are ball active. They are ball hawks. They are tipping in passing. I watched LeBron James intercept a ball like he was a free safety. They are in the passing lanes. They are on help defense. They are blocking. They are rebounding. It is remarkable what they're doing on the defensive end. So that's number one. Number two, what am I seeing from the Lakers that is not only a positive, but that is the key to them winning? Their bench is scoring. They are having Alex Caruso, Rajon Rondo playoff Rondo is not only here, but playoff Rondo is in contention for the MVP if he freaking keeps playing the way he's playing. I mean, Rondo is playing out of his mind. He's efficient on the offensive side of the ball. He's letting LeBron James open up. He's letting LeBron James also rest on the bench because there's more than one shot creator. Rondo is arguably a top 5 playmaker in the NBA still at his age. So Rajon Rondo, of course, but it all starts with the scoring off the bench. It all starts with the role player stepping up and making big shots. Latavius Caldwell-Pope is playing great defense, shooting very, very well. Danny Green, the last couple games, is finally coming around to the offensive side of the ball. Kyle Kuzma is really embracing that young guy who's going to come in and play hard defense, but also I'm going to bust my butt down the floor and get wide open shots and get dunks and get layups. Markieff Morris is playing at a very high level on the offensive side of the ball. Alex Caruso playing at a very high level on the offensive side of the ball. What I'm seeing offensively from these bench players and role players from the Lakers is what we've needed to see this entire bubble. It's what LeBron James has needed. It's what Anthony Davis has needed. They needed other people to take the weight off their back so they're not having to drop 85 a night. They can drop 55 collectively, and then they're getting that contribution, and they're able to rest them. They're able to win by 15 or 20 because they have so much progression from their bench. All starts with their defense and playmaking on the offensive side of the ball. The Lakers are going to be very hard to beat in the championship. Let's move over. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. I actually want to move over to the East matchup that we're about to see. We saw the Boston Celtics take down the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors, very hard fought, almost made it back to the Eastern Conference Championship, which if they would have damaged Kawhi Leonard's career for a very long time to come. But at the end of the day, there's too many playmakers on the Boston Celtics. Brown and Tatum really took over that series. Now we're seeing Gordon Hayward's finally on his way back after a severe injury. So now we're seeing all these pieces start to get healthy. Marcus Smart is the best defender in the bubble right now. What he's doing is shutting people down. I mean, Marcus Smart is literally, he's the cop showing up to the high school party, banging down the door and shutting that crap down. Plain and simple, Marcus Smart's playing at an elite level on the defensive side of the ball. But the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics, not only is this a good rivalry, but this is fun. This is going to be a fun series. They both play tough defense. You have Jimmy Butler, Marcus Smart, the two defensive gurus. You have a bunch of young talent on the Miami Heat roster. You have a bunch of young talent on the Boston Celtics roster. I'm going to go Boston Celtics in 7. This is going to be a very hard-fought series, but I'm going to go Celtics in 7. Even though I like the Heat and my boy Young Mantis chose the Miami Heat to not only win the Eastern Conference Championship, but to win the championship overall. I'm sorry, Austin, you're going to be disappointed here, but the Heat commended. Not only are you commended for what you have done, but the Miami Heat, I said this at the very beginning a while ago when the NBA first came back, are one player or two players away from winning a championship and being a stout team in the East for many years to come. I love what they have. I love the young talent. I love the mentality that they play with. They are all for one for all. They are not a selfish, bound basketball team like we see in a lot of today's society in the NBA. I love the Heat, but I say you go down in 7. At the end of the day, offensively, I just feel like the Celtics are too much to handle. And last but not least, because I know we do have to get out of here, the Denver Nuggets versus the Los Angeles Clippers in Game 7 this coming evening. I was going to say Tuesday, but it is Tuesday. Yeah, I called it. I said the Denver Nuggets would take the Clippers to 7, and I also said the Denver Nuggets were going to win. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but what I can tell you is this. The Los Angeles Clippers are in trouble, without a doubt. They have blown 2 16-point fourth-quarter games where they were in the lead by 16 points, blew both of those games. First off, Nikola Jokic, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to Google this. Nikola Jokic has the weirdest and grossest beard I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It lines the bottom of his jaw, but it leaves a 4-inch gap, and then it lines the top of his cheeks, and then it kind of comes together to form a mustache that kind of lines his lip, and then it is the weirdest facial hair I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It's almost like it's on purpose, like he just shaves gaps. It's like you had a full beard and you just shave a gap in the middle of everything. I don't know why. It's just weird. It bothered me in his interview. I couldn't even focus on it. I was so weirded out by his weird beard. That's besides the point. Google that crap. For those of you at home who are listening, go Google that crap. Google Nikola Jokic beard. Or interview after this last Clippers game, and you will be just as weirded out as I was. But moving forward, Nikola Jokic, there's no answer for him for these Los Angeles Clippers. He can do what he wants, when he wants, how he wants it. He came in and made 3 straight threes on Sunday in order to put these Denver Nuggets in a comfortable spot to close out and finish that game. Even though Jamal Murray's not having that great of games, what he is doing is finishing the fourth quarter on a very high and efficient note. He has Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and the Morris twin being thrown at him at all times, and Patrick Beverley, if his attitude and could stop fouling everybody so much, then he'd actually stay into a game. But, I mean, he's being thrown. Every good defender that they have is being thrown at Jamal Murray, and he's still finding a way to get 26-9. So what we're seeing from these Denver Nuggets is the problem that I knew they would give these Los Angeles Clippers is there's no answer for Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray is just being good in the spots that he needs to be good. Gary Trent Jr. finally is starting to hit open shots after coming back from injury. I mean, you just got so much young talent on the offensive side of the ball there in Denver. Michael Porter Jr. hit a massive 3 today. You've got so much young talent there that isn't afraid of the big moments. They play for each other. They play as a team. They play with extremely high energy. Defensively, they're keeping Kawhi out of the paint most of the time. Kawhi did not have a good game on Sunday. So Kawhi is now having to take 17 and 18-foot fadeaways, which is not something he's comfortable doing. I watched Kawhi Leonard airball 2 threes on Sunday. Playoff Paul George has officially arrived, and by arrived, I mean playoff Paul George is with Russell Westbrook on the golf course. They're on the 18th green. They're not paying attention to these finals because Paul George flat out sucks. Oh, great. You hit 1 3 in the last 2 minutes. That made it a 15-point game instead of a 19-point game, or 18-point game, sorry. Congratulations, Paul George. And then he's going to come out and complain about how tough the bubble is. I'm sorry. Get over yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. You're getting paid $45 million to play golf and watch movies and play basketball for a living? I think you can get over it. Here's the deal. Put me out on the court. I guarantee you I can score just as many points as he can. So the Clippers are in trouble here. You did not want to go to a Game 7 with a team that's already been to a Game 7 and it's already won a Game 7. That is not what you wanted to do. They had a hard-fought series against the Jazz. they win in 7. You do not want to go to a Game 7 with this team because they are known to show up in Game 7s. Plain and simple, I like the Nuggets. I like their talent. I like what the mismatches they have against the Clippers. On the Clippers side of the ball, their morale's down. They aren't playing with any spunk, any energy. Defensive wise, they are just floodgates open. They are the southern border. Come on in. They let anybody, and they try and flip this superhero switch where with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, when it's a close game, now they're going to crack down and play hard defense. And the problem is that doesn't work against a team that's up 15 on you. Kawhi Leonard has shifted his mentality from a great two-way player to a good one-way player, which is on the offensive side of the ball. He doesn't play defense. Paul George is atrocious out there. Harold can't stick with Jokic. Zubac can't stick with Jokic. Morris is just trying everything in his power to stick with Jokic when he gets put on him, and Jokic is just going over top of him with the most disrespectful, off 1 foot, fade away from 35 feet out three-pointers that I've ever seen. The Clippers are in trouble. The problem with the Clippers, they built themselves to beat the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James, not to beat the Denver Nuggets. And the problem is you have to go through the Denver Nuggets first. So I'm going to go Denver. I'm sticking with my pick here. Denver Nuggets in 7. Plain and simple. I'm excited for the game tonight. Let's see what happens. Denver Nuggets in 7. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is about that time to say goodbye. But before I do, make sure you're following The Locker Room on all of our social media. The Locker Room Podcast 615 on Instagram, The Locker Room 22 on TikTok, TLR with Jacob on Twitter, The Locker Room host Jacob on Facebook. We have a bunch of exclusive shows coming strictly to our social media pages. So in order to get that content, in order to be in contest to win cash prizes or get merchandise from us, you've got to be subscribed. So hit that follow, hit that subscribe, share with a friend. Let us know how we're doing. Love to hear from you in any of my DMs or emails. Hit me up. Love to have a discussion with you and love to hear from you. Once again, I'm Jacob Courtright, and this is The Locker Room.